Alright, in this video I'm going to successfully fix my unresponsive Dewalt hand drill, and this is one of the brushless ones. You can see the battery is good to go, but when you pull the trigger on this thing, nothing happens. This is a 20 volt version, and it's the max. It used to be one of the higher end versions of this thing. Now I can make it work, kind of, and only for a short period of time. Sometimes taking the battery out and letting it sit for a while will get it back to life. But again, it'll do this after a few minutes or if you let it sit for a while. The surefire way to make it work again, I find, is to touch all the battery terminals on the drill side of this thing and then put the battery back in. But you can see that the light comes on right away, and it's not supposed to do that. And then if you squeeze the trigger and let it go, it doesn't have the automatic stop function anymore. So there's something wrong with this thing, and I'm assuming it is having difficulty sensing the position of the trigger. So there's a bunch of screws to remove, and they're all Torx bits. Pretty small. I end up using an eyeglass repair kit kind of thing. I start off with this super annoying like multi-pack of Torx drivers, but it is absolute trash. Don't even use this. This is like for emergency purposes only. I go get the eyeglass repair kit in a second, and I'm going to use that for the rest of the video. But for starters, I'm going to take all the screws out, and you also need to get the 4 out that are on the front end of the transmission. I think it's called the transmission. Anyway, all the gears are in that thing, and on the back side of it is the actual 20 volt motor. So you'll see all of that in just a second once I get all these screws out. I honestly am working on this pretty late at night, so I just take all the screws out and I'm going to leave it for the morning. So I'll pop these out, take everything apart, and reattack in the morning with a little bit more light. Like I said, once day came around, I did pop the cover of this trigger off. So all I've done so far is remove that red and black wire, and it just pulled out. And then there's some little retaining clips on the side of this trigger guard, and then everything pulls back. So there's another bunch of wires, and the little black cover just pulls through those. And then I found that this little selector switch sort of falls out, so just be careful with that. And that's the thing that selects forward and reverse. And I'm using some tweezers, and I just pull the spring back, and then the trigger kind of slides forward and off. So we give it a little twist, and it comes off no problem. So all I'm doing here is cleaning these, I don't know what they are, copper contacts, I suppose. And this sort of senses where the position of the trigger is. And obviously as you depress it further, it makes it go faster. So all I'm using is Q-tips for this, and this is what does the trick. This is really all I do to this. So obviously I'm cleaning the contacts on the trigger side as well. And then after cleaning it off with the Q-tip, I just take some electrical components cleaner, and of course I'll put links in the description. I don't know if Amazon ships this contact cleaner. I have had some trouble finding some of the cleaners and chemicals I use on Amazon in the past. But this is all I take apart. It's not too difficult, and this could save you from having to buy a new tool. So I was looking at the options to replace this thing, and I think sort of the current version of this is almost $300 Canadian. So it's kind of a pain, and for something that just requires 1 or 2 Q-tips, it's very easy to clean, and this might bring back many of your unresponsive tools, not just Dewalt, but anything really. Because obviously you can get sort of a junk buildup on any of these metal surfaces, and if they're using this to sense the position of the trigger, then obviously it could cause you issues. Now to get this thing back in is a little difficult. I put the spring in first, and then the trigger kind of comes in at an angle to get it on. So I put I guess the bottom side in first, and then tipped it over, and then again used the tweezers to put the spring in place. So that's it. And you can see the trigger is now held in place, and then I'll take the selector switch that selects if it's going to the right or left, so forward, reverse, I guess, maybe, if that's what they call it on a drill, and I'll put that in place. Again, there's a little cutout for it, so you got to make sure it's in the right place, and then I'll just take the cover, slide it back down that bundle of wires, and just make sure that all the clips line up and that everything snaps in place. So just like that, pretty easy to do. I'll put the wires back that I've taken out, and really it's just this one right here. Clip that back into place, and then I'll throw the battery on and give it a little test before I put it back together, and looks good. Looks good, at least for now. So I'll put the motor back in and then the trigger mechanism back in as well, and make sure the battery connector is in the right place. And really at this point, you just got to make sure that all the wires are in the channels that they should be in. So there's a little light, got a little channel for that. And then you need to make sure that the forward and reverse switch is actually in the right spot. That kind of fell out as well. And then really just make sure that those wires are inside of the channel, because obviously if they're hanging out of the channel, when you go to put the other side of the drill back on, it's not going to seat correctly, or you could pinch the wire and cause further damage. So sort of clip everything back together, but then the transmission has the gear 1 or 2 selector for the speeds, so you got to make sure that that fits in as well. And other than that, I found that putting the screws on the body first is a good idea, because when you're screwing the transmission in, it kind of pushes the body apart. So I did the screws on the body first, and then did the 4 around the little transmission piece after I got the top 3 or 4 screws in, and then just take the rest of the screws obviously and screw them in. It's pretty straightforward from here on out. And now it's working perfectly. You can see that when I take my finger off of the trigger, it actually stops and doesn't keep going. Goes forward, goes reverse, and I used it to install a door already and had no issues with this thing. So I'm super happy that I was able to bring this back to life. Hope this helps somebody out there. Thanks for checking out my video. Don't forget to like and subscribe.